Redditors who have dated celebrities, how'd it go? I dated an actor who played the lead in an Oscar-nominated movie. He was charming at first but turned out to be the most self-centered and insecure person I've known. He needed constant attention and praise. He would call me at least 5 times a day to talk about himself. He constantly wanted me to confirm his dick was huge. It wasn't, complained about not having a prettier face, tore himself down as an actor but got angry if I didn't contradict him, etc. etc. Utterly draining, like an energy vampire or something. I called it quits after 1 month. D-lister and most insecure and narcissistic person I know. I really did care about him, but I couldn't handle the lack of accountability and them always having to be right or the center of attention. Too much. I will stick to my non-celebs. It was surreal with very little private time for him to be himself. I knew him from high school before fame, so he liked being himself around me. Ultimately, he became very controlling. No one tells them no and upset, so would drop my life for his. The social and financial power imbalance is always present. RJ Mitwalk Jr. from Breaking Bad hit on my daughter at a poker tournament and bought her a drink. She had to gently tell him she was waiting for her hubby who was in the tournament. She said he was super nice and laid back. LOL. I dated a Hollywood actor. He took me to a Hollywood party, where all the other celebrities left with a Hollywood actress. I met enough celebrities that night not to care, although I do like to say they all got to meet me. Did get invited to more Hollywood parties and was blown away that it was all the same people at every single party. He was a D-lister, very charismatic, handsome, but he wasn't getting much work, so he was bitter. He knew how much I was into him. So much so I gave him money to help with bills, etc. I was fucking stupid. He used me. Now he's back in the circuit with a new young woman doing all the things he promised to do with me. So I guess I'm bitter now, but the experience helped me learn to be tougher. He may be doing well, but he's always going to be a nasty person on the inside. Karma will get him. My mom dated the guy who invented Crazy Bones. I had all of the original ones. We used to go to schools and do demonstrations. Back then he struggled, but eventually after my mom broke up with him his company blew up and was bigger than Pogs. I dated a fairly famous female heavy metal musician for a while. The long distance constant travel thing ended up being very much not for me, so we ended things. Edit Jesus, I did not think this would get that much attention. No, I will not say who she was. LMAO. About 8 years ago, I met Corey Feldman at a Comic-Con. He proceeded to ask me out. I respectfully declined. Then he tried to get me to go to a haunted house with him. I'm much younger than he is, haha. My parents say I could have been with a D-list celebrity every time we watch a movie he was in. I met Hugh Jackman on the streets of New York, drinking a Pilsner out of a paper bag and eating a slice of pizza. I was on my way to see the Violent Femme at Roseland Ballroom. I totally asked him to come with me. He said no, but I took it as a win. It's not every day you get to ask out Hugh Jackman. Edited to add, I was the one drinking beer and eating pizza. Hugh was just out for a stroll. And it was the last show ever at the Roseland Ballroom. My friend almost dated Marissa Tomei. Apparently she has a thing for balding men. My friend's friend hooked up with John Mayer after one of his concerts in his tour bus. She said he was a horn dog and was into butt sex. He was an NHL player. We dated for about 8 months and actually were engaged. I broke it off and give back the ring when I realized being a hockey wife would make me go insane in the long run. I sat next to Natalie Portman on a plane once. We talked all about designer handbags, and then were there for each other through some bad turbulence. She was already taken, and I'm gay, but it was still a relationship I'll never forget. Never dated, but once had dinner with Nichelle Nichols. She was the most amazing person I ever met. Full of great stories and would sing at the drop of a hat. She was a true American treasure. My wife was on delicious destinations. Does that count? She's my celebrity lol. Edit wife corrected me. Bizarre foods delicious destinations. I dated a male model who did runway and photo for Ralph Lauren and Calvin Klein. Does that count? He was super pretty and absolutely zero chemistry. He went on to be in a HGTV show. Didn't date but hooked up with Miley Cyrus after Lollapalooza. I was working one of those biggest beer tents at one of the many stages, had to stay late to clean after the show was over, and guess who comes over after we stopped selling to buy a drink? I offered to buy her one, just not at Lolla, and the rest is history for me lol. My grandmother's ex-husband dated Marilyn Monroe. His family helped my great-great-grandparents escape from Germany at the start of World War II. My cousin dated Josh Hartnett for a little bit during college. This was before he got his big break in Pearl Harbor and became famous. ETA, my cousin's a lot older than me, but from what she said he was a sweet guy. I think they met at her friend's high school reunion and hit it off. My mom's cousin married an NFL player. We visited when they lived in Colorado, not anymore, and he was a hella nice dude. Their kids are beautiful. It's been nice to see them grow up thanks to Facebook. I once banged Eartha Kitt in an airplane bathroom. One of my best friends dates and married into a wealthy, famous foreign family. Luckily, he was also famous for a time. He's controlling himself, but he married the one woman who can out-control him and tell him what to do, and it made him a much better man. He needed someone more dominant than him. Funny how that works. They have a great marriage. On and off 7 years. Currently in the off. She was a homebody, so that was nice. Going out and her getting hit on constantly was a bit draining for us both. Liv Tyler and I were on the same plane once and stood somewhat close to each other in the baggage claim in Nice, France, while we both waited for our luggage. It was amazing. Had dinner with Terry Hatcher when we were in our late 30s. Got a hug goodnight. That is all I have to report. That Veronica Vaughn is one piece of ace, I know from experience, dude. Started getting recognized with her and separate from her. Felt like I had to look exceptional everywhere we went. Also had to mentally prepare for people recognizing us wherever we went. Thankfully, we started realizing a lot of it was self-imposed pressure, and now we're just back to being normal. Still gotta read rooms though, just so we're aware of how many people have spotted us and how they're reacting to it. Slept a few times with a famous porn star. It was just like sex with a normal person, aside from her massive jugs. Friend's mom dated Tony Hawk back in the day. She apparently barely ever saw him. A little too committed to the sport. I dated a girl in high school for about 2 months who went on to be a fairly famous model. She was very busy and driven with her budding modeling career. She also was very into all the attention she got from guys. All in all, I'd say it was very vanilla, and she was nice to look at. Also, her dad was scary AF. He was a huge Tongan guy who had gotten out of prison recently and looked at me like I took the last piece of cornbread at the cafeteria, face with tears of joy. I was pretty good friends with someone who had been in a long-term relationship with an NFL player. You'd know his name. He was a good dude and very generous to her, but their lives were just going in very different directions. It ended as well as anything ends. She has lots of good things to say about him but doesn't regret her decision to leave. I dated a Kathy Ireland poster back in the 90s when I was 11. I think someone threw it away eventually for obvious reasons. Michael Kors is my buddy's neighbor in Fire Island. Caught him starting at my ass once. He smiled and I cringed. This counts. I was working for a record company and dated a woman who had a hit record at the time. She was batshit crazy, but a nice person. Everything was fine until the fame died down and she had to be normal again. She couldn't quite get used to not being in hotels and planes and having people scream her name. Which was weird because she didn't really like those things to start with. One day as I was getting ready for work, I asked her if she could drop something off at the post office for me. And when I came home that night, she was gone. Dated a pretty well-known actor. Massive age gap between us, so much so that I didn't really know much about his history with women. I was on tabloid magazines, ran through the mud, paparazzi camping outside of me and my roommate's house, and I was pretty young at the time. Made for a good story, but the attention caused me to lose my job, and it was really hard not being able to defend myself or navigate it all. He had a lot of substance abuse issues. Was really tough, would not recommend, but made for a while.